Woo, that was really roundabout to get in here.
All right, I'm here.
Hey, I see Jolene is here.
Beautiful. How nice of her to join us.
Hi, Jolene, if that's you.
Good afternoon. It is me.
Hi, thanks for coming.
Hi. I'm glad I saw it.
I know.
One of those like, oh, and it totally
I,
worked out. So, which is so rare. This has been a week of like random things working out where I could be at things that
well, that's
generally
good.
I would never
Let's keep that up.
have been with.
Yeah, I've had a lot of jumbles in trying to send multiple calendar invites to large distribution lists. Not every time, but enough times that in this case, since it's very kind of come if you want, I just decided to take the easiest path for me and not send a calendar invite. Just send an email with the link, which actually, between you and me, I kind of hate it when people do that to me. So I'm sorry.
Me too. I complain all the time. I'm like, I
I
need
just,
if it
I
doesn't
just
auto
didn't
fill
have
in my
enough time.
calendar, I am not gonna know. And I just randomly saw this.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
need to know.
and it's all entry by permission. So I'm just watching the participants and
And Apple, have you met Ilea?
no. Hi, Ilea. I've never met you. I'm Apple. I'm the health department director here at Jefferson County.
Hi,
Hi.
very nice to meet you, Apple. I'm
Yeah.
Ilea Claus, and I'm the Director of Operations for Salish.
Awesome. Did you happen to come with Jolene to a meeting we had at DBH maybe in November? You were brand new, like, no, that's not you.
No, that would have
No,
been Belinda, our clinical director.
that's right. She came from the South where
Yeah,
I'm
she
from.
was brand
Yes.
new in November.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Kara.
Ilea's been here forever.
Oh, I'm
Yes, for too long.
sorry. My bad. I've never met you before.
No, it's
No,
completely okay.
she does all the data stuff, so she's more
Oh,
tied to her desk than the rest of us.
data stuff. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. It's good to know.
She's also our compliance officer, our privacy officer, supervises our fiscal staff. You know, she's got a few
All
things
the
going on here.
things.
Many,
Yes.
many hats. Yes.
Wow. So it's only 3:01. I think I'm going to wait till about 3:04. And this is recorded. I think I mentioned that in the email. I just wanted to have a chance for us to have the questions and answers kind of documented for others who can't come today. Hi, Anya. Hi, Gabby.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Gabby.
Hi, Anya.
So those of you just coming on, we're gonna wait till about 3:04 or 3:05 to give people a chance to get here and then this is recorded. It's actually already going, just so you're aware. And we will try to get that posted on our BHAC website for anybody you know who wanted to be here today but can't be. They can look at it later. And the waiting room is pretty quiet, so it might be the six of us or seven of us.
I bet we could fill an hour.
Can't we usually?
Can I climb on your butt? No. Sorry, I'm home with a 6-year-old as of yesterday.
Ah, hi, 6-year-old.
That was who asked if they could climb on my butt while I'm unmuted.
A place any kid wants to be.
Part of parenting. You're a human jungle gym.
That's right.
You're a pack mule. The list goes on and on.
Okay, I can see Julia is coming, but there she is. She's in the weight room now. Cool. I had a little trouble with Zoom today. Um, did you all get in easily enough?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
I had some problems with the link I had, so
You
I would
did?
check
Yeah.
out-
I'm sorry. I mean, I created the link and it told me that it wasn't going to start without the creator. I mean, what do you do? That's a very metaphysical situation to be in because I am the creator. So I had to go out all the way and re-log back in and then re-access the meeting twice in order to get here. So I'm not clearly the link is not fully deficient because most other people got in pretty easily. Okay. It's about 3:04. Julie, I was just saying to the others as we were waiting that I'd wait till 3:04 or 3:05 just to see who else comes. The waiting room is pretty quiet. So we might just get
Is
started.
Paul Hines here?
I do not see him in the waiting room yet, and everybody has to be there and I have to let them enter.
Okay, I'm resending what was sent to me.
Okay, I'll wait another minute. There's Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hi, everyone.
We're just waiting one more minute till 3:05. Get the last folks in. Here comes Heather. And Julia, let me know if Paul needs any resending of anything from my end.
Yeah, and I resent it to Viola, hoping that somebody from OliCap joins, but I don't know if that's reality.
Beulah or Viola? You said Viola.
Viola.
Okay, sorry.
Where? OliCap.
Okay. Okay, it's 3:05. This sort of technical assistance Q&A opportunity is between now and 4. And I appreciate everybody coming. This is pretty informal, but it was articulated as a request. I think we can do a better job across the county offering ways for folks who apply for things through the county, just a little bit more context setting for these opportunities. I know that RFP applications are often very long, not all of them, but often are. This one is no exception. And I can give you a little background about why we sort of formatted it this way and why it is so lengthy. Some of you, actually, almost all of you are familiar with the 0.1% RFP, which this really is a ditto of in structure, but the content is obviously different because the funding is different and the focus and scope are different. This isn't really like a guided going through every bit of the application opportunity here. This is a little bit more informal in terms of question and answer, but I think if you have a specific need or way for this to go down that will better serve you, you can certainly give me a nudge. How about I just open it up? Is anybody on the call today that doesn't know each other at all? Like Julia, you might be one of the people that's
Yeah,
not.
I don't know a lot of the people.
Okay.
I'm Julia Cochran. I'm the volunteer executive director of the Winter Welcoming Center, and I am hoping to apply for this to hire an executive director.
Awesome. Awesome. And then we've got some folks from the health department. So I'm just going to go quickly. Jen Mitchell is our finance manager, and she works with me and she helps us keep the funds where these funds are kept in the county organized and flowing and keeps the invoices going and the money going out. And she also comes to our meetings, our BHAC meetings. That's the Behavioral Health Advisory Committee, for those of you who don't attend that normally. And then Kara, you are part of our prevention team working with our Empowered Teens Coalition in the schools. And that's it. Well, Anya, you're here too. And Julia, you know Anya very well. Then we've got Brian from Dove House. I think you know the rest of us. Gabby and Heather McRae Wolf is from the Benji Project. And then we've got two of our colleagues from Kitsap County, Jolene Cron and Elia Clausen. Did I get that right? Elia.
Close. Ilea.
Ilea, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. From the Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services Office. And they actually comprise the opioid, what is the term? I haven't used it in a long time, Jolene. You're the sort of center for the region for the opioid settlement funds to pass through.
We are the Regional Opioid Abatement Council.
Opioid Abatement Council.
So we are responsible
OAC.
for tracking, reporting, and making sure that the funds are in alignment with the One Washington MOU.
Okay.
For Kitsap, Jefferson, and Quallen.
Right. Did I miss anybody? I was mostly doing that for Julia's benefit, just to orient her. So,
Thank you.
as you know, I mean, the parameters of this funding this time is a 1-year contract. And that's different from the 1/10 funds that are on a 2-year contract. If you all have any questions about the amount of money that's in this fund and how these monies come in through the state, through the legal proceedings that have happened with the suits against the pharmaceutical companies, the distributors, and the manufacturers. I can show you a graph if you don't have any experience looking at that. Most of the folks on the BHAC are probably pretty familiar with that. But suffice it to say, this year, for this RFP, which would start July 1st and end June 30th of 2027, so it's the state fiscal year calendar, we have about $200,000 in the fund for the opioid settlement funds that are dedicated to the BHAC to administer. There's more funds that came to the county, but those are going to the Behavioral Health Consortium. If anybody wants to see that visually, I can put up a slide that shows that, but I can also move back from the particulars of like the larger framework, and you could just ask me questions that you may have about the application itself to start with.
If you don't mind, could you put up the just allocation with what's going to the BHC
Yeah.
versus what's going to the community providers?
Yep.
Thank you.
Let's see, it is. It's in Adobe. I'm sorry, it'll be hard to see. This is I've got several tabs open. Okay, let me get to this one. This is the most current iteration that I have from our prosecuting attorney's office at the county. It's dated October 20th, 2025. So there may be that some funds have come into this fund since then, and that is fine. But for the purposes of understanding sort of the bifurcated nature of where these funds ended up going vis-a-vis the commissioner's request, the distributor funds that are at the top in sort of that peach highlight, all of that money in that row goes to the BHC over a span of 17 years. So not quite $1 million to the BHC table over 17 years. And we are in year 3-ish, active 3-ish of those 17 years.
Close to year 5.
Really?
Yep.
Am I losing my mind? It's like, time is a vortex.
No, because they paid the first couple of years
in one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got
right.
it.
So we've been being paid less than 5, but I think we're just close to 5.
So the rest of the settlements, Janssen, Walmart, Allergan, Teva, CVS, and Walgreens, are bundled together over multiple different years, which I will show you in a minute. And those are dedicated to the BHAC, the advisory committee, not the consortium, to be used over about a 16 to 17 year period. So you don't need to memorize these numbers. I'm going to take you. Oh, I need to also watch. I apologize. I need to see about participants. there's anybody else. Okay, bringing Lily over. I'm going to switch over here to a different tab. Did the screen change?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
This is old, but it's the best sort of parsing of the longevity of funds. So these numbers are not maybe exactly correct right now, but it does show the listing from year 2022 down to 2038. And in the first column, you can see that's the distributor funds over about 17 years. This particular iteration doesn't have any values for Janssen. Sorry about that. But again, the message here for now in the conversation is that Walmart, Allergan, Teva, CVS, and Walgreens are differing lengths at differing amounts, and they all pretty much decrease, even significantly, like in the Walmart case, as you go along over the years. So you can see that this fund is not, well, for one, it's not flush, and for two, it decreases over years, and it's finite, meaning this funding is not sustainable. I mean, 16 or 17 years feels like a long time, but it isn't in the life of these big projects that we want to do. So let me go back to the other screen if somebody who just came on didn't see it. The distributor funds, these top funds in peach, they are all going to the Behavioral Health Consortium, and it is to be determined how that table is going to utilize those funds. So you might have curiosities about it, you might have feelings about it, but in this space, we're not going to settle that up at the moment because actually the BHC hasn't met in a while, and it's had a transition of the person who was leading it resigning, and we as a table are trying to figure out how it will go forward. And I'm sure that it will in part help the table stay viable, but it might in part do other things yet to be determined. What we're concerned about for this RFP that you're interested in is these other settlements. So I'm going to stop sharing that for now.
So it's all those other things in blue that you put together into a thing, and that's what this RFP is for?
This RFP is for 1 year's worth of funds out of that longer trajectory across those multiple, they're called pharmacies. Jolene, maybe you can correct me. If a manufacturer is one of those names, I'm having a hard time telling because the manufacturer's lawsuits got settled in a little bit different timeline than the.
Right. So currently the funding we have, distributors, that was that first bucket of funding.
Right.
The next bucket of fundings were the pharmacy and the manufacturer.
They're combined.
Yes.
If you want to see it again.
Still have some of those pending. So Purdue is still pending. We don't have final numbers. And then there's a couple that we recently have gotten that we're still trying to sort which one they belong to.
So, right, I know this has been a up and down and around sorted process, not only for Jolene at Salish BH ASO, as the money comes from the state through their organizations to the region, but then down to us, it's not ever very clear. We don't know if the numbers we've heard are actually coming or different.
Well, we get the check and you get the notice of what it should be, and so it's a lot of reconciliation. We don't actually get the notice. We
don't freak them out with that crazy sort of back end detail.
We just communicate it.
Suffice it to say, you have a lot of concerned folks who are working in this space trying to get the funds to make sense to the people who need it, to deliver it to the folks who will benefit the most from ameliorating the harms of opioids. Yeah. I think it might, just as a next thought, be helpful while we're on this part of the thinking of today's gathering, if Jen would put up your table, which is kind of taking it down from a 30,000 foot perspective of all the monies coming in over years, going to this table or that table, and just look at what we have right now and how we're sort of parsing the money that's in the bank at this minute 200 of which is going to go to RFPing out to, do you have it? Are you pointing at me?
I do. I moved from computers, so I'm figuring out which screen I need to be putting
Okay,
it on.
keep going. I'll keep talking.
I'm just doing my own thing
No
over here.
problem.
Doing myself with my fingers.
We'll show you what it looks like, real drilled down to just what the BHAC is responsible for using these funds for. And Jen, are you prepared to kind of go through this? I know you made it, but it's
Yeah, no, okay. So this is kind of what we look at when we talk about our projection for how much we're going to be able to put out for 131. This is the back end work that I do annually where we go, okay, this is how much we anticipate we're receiving, and this is how much we anticipate we can put out for an RFP comfortably and ensure that we have reserves, the just in case monies, and all of those things.
so let
thus
me interrupt just a
far-
second.
Yep.
It's Fund 132, not 131.
Yeah, no, that was my point. This is how I do it for 131, so I just duplicated it for
Okay, well,
130.
You have to say what those mean because not everybody
Right.
on here has heard about the names of those funds.
Sorry. So Fund 132 in 2025 had no beginning balance. And then the revenue we received was $541,962. So this is all the money currently sitting in that fund and available. So we closed out the year. We didn't do anything with it in 2025. So our beginning fund balance for 2026 is that 541,962. Our projection based on what Apple showed in that last screen that we anticipate receiving revenue based on that table is only $63,000, right about there, for 2026. So I know that those numbers may have changed and there may be a more updated table. I was working with what I had, so this is where we are. And then the county awarded $150,000 of that fund to county public safety operations. At this time, it has not been allocated to certain places. It has just been allocated to be spent on county public safety operations. And then our anticipation is the administrative costs, where public health administers those funds. They take in the invoices, they make sure the payments are made, is about $5,000 a year. And then our RFP amount, after we discussed it, we said $200,000 was a comfortable amount if we would like it to be an ongoing amount, at least for a couple of years. We know that these funds are finite. We know that they start to go, the amounts that we'll be receiving start to cut down very drastically as we get into further years. So trying to be able to maintain a steady level that we're able to RFP was kind of our priority to start out with. If we RFP that, or when we RFP that 200,000, then there will be at the end of the year 250,000 left in that fund. And then we decided a reserve of $20,000 was appropriate. And so that would leave cash available 230,000. The following year in 2027, we anticipate getting $67,000 in revenue. And again, putting out that 200,000 in RFP, we can slowly see our cash available starts to whittle down. If we did the same in 2028, we would anticipate being completely out of money by that point, depending on how things are actually coming through and when the settlements are getting paid and what we're actually receiving. So this is just a projection, but it's what we look at to start the planning process and then watch as we continue to go through.
So what are you saying this RFP is for? How much are you saying this RFP is for?
So this RFP is for 200,000. That's the amount that we'll have available this round, and that will run on the state fiscal year. So it will start July 1st and then end June 30th of 2027.
And then we expect there to be $200,000 again for 27 and 28, and those will continue to be 1-year awards that we just reapply for or apply for.
Yeah, I would say that's a good anticipation. From this chart, you can see that if we do award the 200,000 and we get the money as anticipated, we'll be in the red already. Like we'll be at a negative 42,000 for that. So it would be likely that 2028, if our awards continue to be around the 65 to 70,000, 2028, we would probably start tapering off the award amounts or tapering off the RFP amounts to match what funding we had coming in.
But they're also, my understanding is that there's still settlements happening, so we just don't know what the future will look like, because there could be even more money if
That is
things settle.
completely correct. Yeah. And if things were to change, that's where we change the projection here and we would start to change these numbers. If all of a sudden next year we got $150,000, this may change our anticipation and our projection.
And
or we
while
might decide to continue with the 200,000 as we go and keep that steady amount kind of flowing in. It would just kind of depend on what the committee is, where they're pushing those funds to, where they prioritize them to, and what kind of requests we receive and where that funding is going.
And one of the reasons that it's only a 1 year each time, I mean, I know that that ends up being more work for applicants. We understand that. Trust me, we're on the other end of it, managing the applications and all that goes with determining the outcomes of an RFP. But with this inconsistent and not always predictable way that money is coming in, or not as much as coming in, that kind of situation, we overall felt like it made sense to just do 1 year at a time. And then we can track a little bit more closely where we are as that particular contract year starts to end, and then we know how much we have. We have a firmer way of knowing how much we actually have to RFP the next time.
Apple.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, kind of along those lines. I understand the funding uncertainties and parameters and why you're choosing the 1 year, like you were just saying. And I guess I'm just curious how that could influence how folks who are wanting to apply for the RFP think about what kind of things to apply for.
Right.
Because I feel like, and I apologize, I have not been able to go through it with a fine-tooth comb yet. So in my quick scan, I'm sure there are many things that I have missed. But I'm not sure if you're wanting to look at programs that have a longer trajectory, or if you're really looking at like proposals that are like 1 year once and done, because it's such a limited, scope of the funding. So I think that's my question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question, and it's a little bit of a conundrum. The best answer I have for you right now to that question, Heather, is that we don't have a set algorithm that the review committee will use that says we will or won't accept this or that. I did say in the instructions for the RFP that this could be for ongoing programming or a one-time project, meaning that there's a big range. And so you as applicants, it's incumbent upon you to kind of scale what it is you're asking for and for what reason, based on what it is you have in mind. You also need to keep into account that you might not get it the second time around, depending on how the RFP goes. And the lesser amounts with every diminishing year across the lifespan of these funds also is tapering. So when we say, like in the 1/10 world, when we say the 1/10 funds should be your funds of last resort, not first resort, even though we know how hard it is to do that with the limited ways to get funds to do these programs. It does need to be last resort, because we want to help you with these funds do things that are appropriate as expressed in the One Washington MOU, which are the 12 to 14 abatement strategies, which you all should look at. Even if you're familiar with them, look at them again to really find where what you do falls into those abatement strategies. In the body.
Can you word somewhere I can see them so I know how to look this up?
So
I'm
the
sorry,
One Washington.
I'm in this room.
It's okay, Julia. The One Washington MOU is a hyperlink on the very first page of the RFP application. It's in about the second paragraph, and I'll, Jen, if you stop sharing, I can share again the application. So I'm going to show you it on the shared screen, and I'll show you where to hover, and then you can go to the document, and I'll answer Anya's question next.
My question is, should our budget be for a 1-year project, or could we use this $200,000 or whatever we apply for? If let's say someone were to apply for $200,000, could it be for a project that's using, $50,000 over 4 years?
Good question, Anya. I mean, I think the best way to think about it is, what can you pay for in 1 year with the amount that you get? But I see where you're coming from. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to there it is. Here's the front page of the RFP, and Julia, the link is right here. It should be hyperlinked, and the document looks super long. Don't be afraid of that. Go to the abatement strategies, which are about halfway through the document. And there's 12 to 14 of them you can look at. But just suffice it to say, on the application that you have in front of you, right here are the priority funding areas that the people of the BHAC and invited guests and community members agreed would be important aspects of those 12 to 14 abatement strategies that Jefferson County particularly wants to focus on. So if you right size your ask to these funding areas, you're already got points on the logic model for the reviewers of the applications. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, back to your question, Anya. And Jen, please chime in if you're thinking ahead of me, but I see your point. It's like, could you take $50,000 and spread it out over 4 years if you have a concept that you want this money to feed? I think go ahead.
So the 131 fund definitely does not work that way. It is based on per year how much you could spend, and it is only 2-year periods. So the expectation is, even in that, it's a certain award amount per year. If that award amount is not spent, it doesn't roll over, it just goes back into the bucket. That's not to say you couldn't ask for that in that manner. I'm not really 100% sure how that would work. It's not to say that you couldn't ask for it, though, and say this is our plan and we'd like to have the $50,000 to be able to spread out this way as our award. It would be, I don't know.
It's
and
a little,
I don't know how it would work for tracking.
yeah, it's more burden on the administrative data and invoicing side of these funds to have it spread out further over years than what it's actually intended for. But Jen makes a really good point. Many things are going to be considered by this review panel. And I think if you're clear about your idea, even if it's outside the basic parameters of what you're reading are the parameters within the application, the subcommittee is small and thoughtful enough that it can take things on a case-by-case basis and say, well, I see that they want to use this amount of money over this many years to spread it out. Maybe we'll agree to 2 of those 4 years, or maybe we can agree to just 1 year, but a little more money than we would have given otherwise. I mean, I don't know. I am not the review committee. I'm the person organizing the committee to get together, and then they have to make these decisions. But I would say be as honest in your proposal about what you really see the money going toward and in what way as you want to be. That's not a detractor as far as scoring on your.
The next part of my question is, if let's say you're awarded $50,000 for next year, but you only spend 40, is this something where it's like, oh, we have 1 month left in the contract, let's buy $10,000 worth of something because we need to spend the money, or else it's going back, or could it, if you didn't spend it all, could it ease into the next year, is your money yours or does it get turned back after that period?
It
Yeah,
gets turned back after
it
that.
gets turned back. It's similar to the 1/10 of 1% funds.
That I guess that was kind of related to what I put in chat. So, but it's a reimbursable grant, right? So you're submitting just like 1/10 of 1%. Is that correct? So, no.
I'm sorry, I'm telling someone
Oh,
to
that's
not
okay.
come in and interrupt me. Sorry, Heather.
She's shaking her head at me. She says, no. I guess I'm just curious because, like, kind of similar to what was just being discussed, like, if you're having to submit your timesheets, invoices, etc., for reimbursement for this grant, then I don't see how it could be for anything beyond a year.
Right. I agree. I'm reading.
Well,
I'm
it could be
reading through
beyond
the
a
finer
year
details.
if the committee agreed that there could be tracking beyond a year's time for that much of money that that particular vendor receives. But like we just said, like we prefaced it,
see.
that's a lot of work on our end to keep up with that. So it's likely that the committee wouldn't go for that.
Right.
But I was trying to make the point that if you see a strategy that you feel would work best, it's encouraged to say it in the application, and you might get a version of that. I think it's probably best to try to keep it within the parameters of a single year, knowing that you might apply again and that it might be around $200,000 that's available in the next contract year, and that you might segment your applications over the trajectory of several years vis-a-vis which contract year you're applying for. Go ahead, Lily. I'm sorry to make you wait.
That's okay. I just had a question. I was looking at the application under the proposal description. There was just that note that you must identify the actual persons who'll be performing the work. And so, I guess my question is kind of like if we were submitting a proposal that was like we wanted to hire a navigator or something like that, and we don't have that person yet, or like a social worker to add to our team.
So I would say you would write in your narrative that you plan to hire, and you would give us some snippet of the job description so it's pretty clear what it is. Don't make any assumptions that the review committee knows. And then it would be a follow-up, the contract part, the county contract part, which is like 19 pages at the end of the application packet. In there, it will say in, the usual county legalese, like if you change people or if you get a different staff person, it's incumbent upon you to let the grantor know.
Okay.
The reason that we asked for that in general, I would say, is that when we're providing funds as a pass-through to a program or an entity that's got, let's say, clinical providers or mental health counselors and that kind of thing, it's important that we know sort of who's covered by these funds in terms of their
Thanks.
scopes.
Yeah, thanks. That answers my question.
Cool. Julia?
So is it a reimbursable grant? Like that was a question and I didn't understand the answer, I think.
Okay. It is a reimbursable grant because we pay you once the invoice is turned in. We don't pay you up front, right? So the invoice framework is really critical here. And those who've been doing 1/10 of 1% are pretty familiar with that routine. But I think Heather's question was if it's reimbursable, like you get the money after you tell us what you did, then how can we really extend a contract past the contract year, which was vis-a-vis Anya's question. And like the packet says, for those of you who aren't 1/10 vendors, I mean, this works best when everybody can have some of the infrastructure in their own organizations. And we know you've got small staffs and sometimes you're even powered by volunteers who can be tasked with making sure these invoices, get done well and get turned in, and that you have regular communication with our finance team. Jen is super available and very handy. And when you're struggling, that we're there to kind of help. We also have thought about, and this is a wider county, across county desire, is to have a stock template for any of these RFPs that is an invoice, so that anybody who's working with the county to receive funds through us does that sort of part of the business, book of business, the same way. We don't have, that doesn't exist right now. Public health has their own invoicing preferences, but the county as a whole doesn't have like a stock template that we're meant to use. But we're here to guide anybody through creating an invoice if they've not done it before, and figuring out what the best sort of routinized system is for you to get these in, because you need the money.
Heather put something in the chat there, Apple.
Oh,
Trouble finding the 14 abatement
okay.
strategies.
Well, let me share screen. And if anybody has a different question, be thinking.
It's on page 14 of that link.
Yeah, so here I am in the application. And I did try my own link ages ago. I haven't tried it today, so hopefully it'll go somewhere. Except that it might not work.
I couldn't get it to open.
I had to copy and paste the link into a separate
That's
window.
a bummer. What am I looking for? It's funny, it won't let me copy it. Well, I'm going to pull it up a different way. That's not good. I checked it before I published
When
it.
you pull it up a different way, can you give us that HTTP address?
Yeah,
'Cause I'm a
yeah.
little bit
You know
like
what I'm going to
technical.
do? I'm wondering if there was a translation error in that embedded URL when it got converted to PDF. So I'm going to go back to the original one. And if you want on your own, you can just search the web for one, that's ONE, Washington, MOU.
I will caution that it is very complicated though, when you go to directly to the MOU. We actually have a cheat document that we put together.
We do.
With
We do
the-
too. Do
with
you
the
have one
summary.
at the ready?
Yeah, but it only has 12, not 14.
Yeah, that's why I said 12 to 14, because
Okay.
my
It's
memory
12.
was
Yeah.
not serving. It's 12.
Yeah.
I'm looking for my version that is openable.
Page 14 was helpful information. Thank you. I have now finally found where it is.
So you can see they sort of page over page 1 through 12. And as you look at those, reference back to about the second page of the application where it says what the primary focus areas are of this year's RFP. And you'll see that they align. They're not carbon copies of each other, and there's less of them. And the reason that is because in May of 2023, the BHAC had a special meeting / retreat of the board members and of community partners, invited guests and citizens, people with lived experience. We met at the Maritime Center and we had like a 3-hour workshop on how to discern what of the 12 abatement strategies felt most applicable to the most immediate needs for our residents here in Jefferson County. So like I said, if you want to score higher with the review committee, it'd be good to stick with the ones that are emphasized on the second page of the RFP instead of picking one that is of the 12, but not highlighted within the application. Does that make sense?
And Apple, when you're talking about the ones on the second page of the application, are you talking about the 6 ones listed under priority funding areas? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it doesn't use the abatement strategy language, so it's different.
It doesn't because
language.
I wanted to
Okay.
preserve the tone and timbre of what came out of the retreat because that was the expressed wish of the BHAC at the time for these funds. But they're not dissimilar. It's just not the same words.
Okay, so just to maybe not to go too deep in this rabbit hole, but those 6, do they match exactly to 6 of the ones on the list of 13 on the other document, or no? They're their own priority areas that were identified by the BHAC,
They
and there's
are.
some overlap, but they're not. I'm not trying to find, oh, this number 2 is parallel to
Don't
this
do that.
number, whatever.
Right.
Don't do that. Okay.
The One Washington MOU is an important framework so that we're not giving money to people to do things that have nothing to do with opioid abatement. However, the BHAC 2 years ago determined that the 6 bullet points that I put in the application of the priority funding areas were the ones we were most consciously feeling were gaps that needed to be attended to with these minimal funds. And yes, you're right. They're not word for word 6 of 12. And I'm not trying to confuse you. It just, that is just the way that it is.
So I noticed that you're recording this, and my partner is not here, who is way smarter than me in this world. So, or more educated, something. So is there a way I can share this thingy with him?
Yes, good question. And I'll reiterate the answer. So we told you we would record this. It started recording the minute we came on at 3 o'clock. And I will take the recording. I'm not going to edit it. I don't even know how. I'm gonna beg our IT department to put it as a clickable link on the BHAC webpage, which I'd like you to be familiar with anyway, because that is the table that oversees these funds for multiple reasons. And we'll put it there for a limited amount of time because it'll be a heavy file and IT will hate that I want to have it posted up there because it takes up a lot of cache. But that is a place where people can look at it. If for some reason they convert it into a different format, you won't need to know that. You'll just need to click on something, a link that we leave there for you. And I'll follow this meeting up with the same email thread I've had with you all about the RFP, saying that, for those of you who couldn't come, please refer to this link where you'll find a recording of the meeting we did have. And to answer your question, Lily, yes, that is the link. And then again, on page 14, yeah, that's where the abatement strategies start.
Just following up on that, kind of based on what Heather was saying. So you guys have your kind of priority funding, but then there's also the abatement strategies. Is like should we be prioritizing your 6 things over the general kind of abatement strategies?
Yeah, and again, they're not different. They're just
right.
worded different because they come from the mouth of the BHAC as priority areas for this county. And they sync up with, but not line by line, with the 12 strategies in the MOU.
Okay.
If you don't want to wade through the MOU, just stick to the 6 on the page and see where what you're interested in applying for fits into those, because that's really where the attention will be of the committee, because it helps them pare it down as well. That's not to say also that many of the other abatement strategies aren't super important. But they're just in this year's iteration, we're going to focus on the 6 that are written in the application. Go ahead, Heather.
I was also curious about the possibilities of partnerships and if 2 organizations wanted to apply together, like how complicated is that? How does that work? Does one have to be the primary applicant and the other is like subcontractor applicant? Do you like just any words of wisdom about that?
Well, you're ahead of me, but that's okay. I have thought about it. It's just I don't have a decision on it from the BHAC. But here is what I've heard that would be fine, that scenario you just said. In fact, it might be that it works better for both parties if they apply together. So if you have that in mind, get together with your fellow party member and sort of work through the concept and how you build that out. As far as the sort of contractual who's on first and who's on second kind of thing, I can't confirm that for you right this minute because we've never done it before. It's not actually overtly encouraged in the 1/10 funding portfolio, and there may have been a reason way back when for that not to happen. But I know in this case, especially since we want to get these out the door quickly, and we don't have much funds to go around, if people want to double up and make the case, I think it's super worth it. And we will figure out the details soon about how that might trickle down strategically between the two entities.
I would say, as far as reimbursement wise, it would need to be spelled out very clearly how much, if you were both going to invoice, if you were partnering with another organization and you were both going to invoice separately, it would need to be very clearly spelled out how much of what for what was going to each organization. So that way, for us to track it, it's easier for us to put in separate contracts. But if we were doing two different vendors under one contract, that's a lot more tracking. So we would need it just really clear.
What else?
If you were me, what would you ask?
I don't know. I'm so familiar with the application that I'm not sure I can think outside of the brain I have about it, but
And I would
don't know
say
any.
once this is shared, and once, if you have other counterparts in your organization or you share it with other organizations and they watch it and they're like, oh, wait, I have this question. We're here. Just reach out and
Just
ask. There's
send
if
it
they
to
or
us.
you remember something in 10 minutes after we're done, just ask. And I'm more than happy to keep like a sheet that is other asked questions. If we get so people can have those answers as well, because that way we could answer things one time and resend that sheet out of FAQs.
I guess I would ask if anybody on here has done the 0.1% RFP and received funding and lived through at least a 2-year rotation. Do you have any advice for people applying for the opioid funds in this? It's really a very similar format. And having lived that experience, if you have, do you have any recommendations in terms of how to understand doing the RFP that might provide insight for newer people to this process?
I guess this is one thing that is a little bit of a question, but maybe Julia helpful in the sense of like how to think about the budget part of this application, which is that whole question about the payer of last resort piece, right? So if, for example, an organization is applying for $50,000 from this fund, is the expectation that, like, let's say 50% of the thing that you're applying for is covered by other funds, or is there any sort of like percentage recommendation of like how much is covered by other sources, or is there any other guideline besides? Yeah, sometimes it's hard. I think it can be hard to interpret what does payer of last resort really mean when you're putting together your budget.
Well, that's really a good question, and it's a nuance that's a little bit hard to answer. I think probably one at least thing to consider is as you're planning, the reason that we say payer of last resort is this fund, for instance, is that we know, like in the 1/10 case, since it's tax based, it can fluctuate wildly from year to year. which means you may not have that much next time, you may not have any if you don't sort of get accepted in the RFP. So you don't want the fund you're applying for to be your funder of first resort, because that means you're relying on something that could have the plug taken out of it. Does that make sense? So you can use the funding every month in the way it's intended that you've prescribed in your application. But we need to have the review committee needs to have some assurance that you have other funds that are braided in, that you either rely on half as, as much or more than what you're relying on these funds for. Do you have any better way to explain that, Jen?
Yeah, and also a little bit like we at Public Health have a ton of braided funding. We have one program that runs off of 4 different funding sources. So in that instance, if I was using 1/10 of 1% funding or funding like this that was pair of last resort, I would use up those other 3 resources before moving on to that one. Does that make more sense?
So, I'm on the board of Jasira, so I do watch grants and stuff. I haven't been part of applying ever. Paul has, which is why I wish he was here. But so what I'm doing is capacity building. So my fantasy is that I'm creating a capacity, and that capacity will figure out how to pay for itself in the future.
So that's, if you look at the questions in the application, I don't know it verbatim, I can look for it, but I struggle to multitask when I'm on a meeting, but you'll see that one of the questions asked about that. And the good response to that question is, we are looking for more reliable funding for this same purpose, or we have some funding that matches this aim, but it only lasts for, a year longer than the funds you're applying for in this case, which are the opioid settlement funds. So you just explain what we want to not see is that someone is applying only for these funds and nothing else. Because what it indicates to us is that you're not thinking about the longevity of providing the service, which is of the benefit to the people that are being served. And we want the services to stick around. And that's hard when we don't have a lot of funds. But I think the reviewers are wanting to see that the applicant has thought through that. And this is just one part of the braided funding that you're looking for and or using.
Especially with these funds, because we know that they are so very limited, time limited, and then they dwindle down. So, I would anticipate if in the future, as they started to dwindle down, the RFP amounts would dwindle down with it to kind of help others reduce reliance on this funding and move towards reliance on other funding as well. But we completely know that these types of funds are used as like startup funds. We're going to use this so we can get this person hired, and then we're going to get that additional funding in there to wean off of this funding. So does that answer your question, Julia?
That's a good example.
Exactly what I'm planning to do.
Yeah. That's apropos of your case. But I want to make a mention to the notation in the application that this could also be for one-time projects. So for instance, you could say, and I'm not sure what the best example would be, but you could ask for $30,000 to build something. You can't build much with $30,000. But you could say in the application, I want this 1 year, this one-time spot of money, at least for this round, to build this thing. And then I plan to get and apply for different money to pay for the operations that help this one thing I just built work into the future. So indicating that you have a plan beyond the year, even when it's something hard and fast, like you build something, just write what that thinking is on into the future.
What about something like a pilot project? So maybe something you're not quite sure if you want to continue, but you're just kind of testing out. Is that also something that reviewers might be interested in?
Well, that's a great question, Lily, and I haven't had it posed to me that way, but being pretty familiar with the definitions that are kind of outlined in the application, evidence-based or promising practices, a pilot study, we'd have to figure out like where that fits in that continuum of, you know, the sort of levels of, what's the word I'm looking for? Levels of validity that any program has. If it's a pilot project, it ostensibly has no data yet because you're trying it.
Right, exactly.
But the application says we focus on evidence-based and promising practice, which are two different levels on the arc. You could make a case that there is this aspect of doing these priority focus areas that's never been brought to this area. You know that it works somewhere else across the country. And so doing a pilot project here with these funds, even though it's not a promising practice yet or an evidence-based program yet, is so beneficial to us to get it here that it'd be worth supporting for a year.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like Kara needs to leave. I think she's gone already. So Heather, you have a question about the logic model on page 9 and 26. Oh, I know why that looks confusing. I think they're the same. It's just that because Phil Hunsucker made me promise with my life that I would put the professional services agreement, which is our county contract with vendors, he makes us put it in the body of the application so you can never say that you didn't see it before and you don't like it. This is our lawyer. In the body of the template of the contract, you'll see a logic model empty page. That's just like looking at an exhibit. What you actually need to do is fill in the logic model that's a lot like it, that's, I think, higher up in the application, which is the actual thing you need to fill out in order to apply for this RFP. Does that make sense? It looks like there are two. Let me open it and see if I can show you what I'm.
Okay, so that's helpful. So basically just the application ends at a certain point and then all of the rest of the pages are the contract, the draft.
Yeah, I thought about putting in a table of contents, but then that would have added a page, and it was already at 28 pages. So you're right. So are you seeing the application now?
Oh, so the actual application ends on page 11 and everything else is just the agreement.
And you should be, sorry to make your eyes hurt, but you should be able to see.
Got it.
Let me go down this way. 11. So right here on page 12, I was hoping this would come out more highlighted, but it's not. It's just a template. Like I said, our attorney is like, you cannot put this out for the public unless you put this template in here, because nobody can say they didn't know this is what they were up against when they apply. And so you'll see further down in the template that, yeah, lo and behold, there is a logic model. And what will happen is when you apply with the application, the logic model further up that I've already scrolled past, I, and formerly Anna, will take that information and will plunk it into the contract for you. And that's how that works.
So I have a question. Like on the Housing Fund Board, we have a scoring sheet, which is how when we look at RFPs, it's how we make a decision. Is that part of your guys' reality?
There is a scoring sheet for the review committee.
Is it in this thing somewhere?
It's not in it, I'm sorry. You're dealing with me as the facilitator coordinator, and I do this job in my spare time. And so no, it's not in the application. It'd be nice if it were.
Can we see it?
I don't have it yet because we're going to confirm it at the BHAC meeting, which is next Tuesday.
And then we can see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, may I say something? I'm sorry. There is on page 8 of the grant RFP, there is language in the scoring form, number 2. Evidence-based, promising, best or innovative practices, identifies practices and includes a robust evaluation process. 0, no mention of selected, and that's pretty specific to, part of the grant that you'll be part of the RFP that you'll be writing that has to do with you validating the program that you are trying to offer. So there's a little bit of scoring information right there for you, Julia. But yeah, so.
Yeah, the scoring matrix, though, Julia, which I think you're familiar with in another context, I'm familiar with those sorts of things too, and it is not published in this iteration of the application. But when we discuss it and confirm it at next week's meeting, because we only meet every other month, I can publish that.
Okay. Should I go to that meeting?
You can always come to that meeting. You can come as a guest, a future applicant, an interested party. It's noticed in the newspaper, and we put social media posts out about it ahead of each meeting. It's every other month, the second Tuesday of every other month, starting in February. And the Zoom link is always the same for the year, and that's also on all of our promotional materials. But Julia, since I work with you a lot, kind of individually, I'm happy to just send you the link to next Tuesday's meeting personally. And I'll make a note of it.
And if I can manage to pay an executive director, then you can stop dealing with somebody who's like paddling fast all the time.
Julia, we we would miss your fast paddling if it weren't around. And plus, you know a lot, so you're a good student. What other questions? I think we're over time, and I want it for the purposes of a recorded meeting for others to look at in the future. I don't want it to go on too long. And we've
I feel like there's no answer to this question, but I'm wondering if like applying for smaller amounts or larger amounts, is the committee trying to award more awards to more people, or trying to like fully support transformational programs that are, really going to make a difference?
So
because $200,000, we all know, isn't, actually that much money once it all gets trickled down.
I wish I had an answer for you, Anya, right now. I can say the general trend in answer to your question for the 1/10 funds, because we've been through many cycles of it, and it has a pretty consistent way that it looks at small and large asks. These funds, we didn't know because we've never done it before. We just didn't know who would apply. And so we don't have that like parameter of whether we're going to do more little offerings or lesser large offerings. And I can't say that because I'm not the committee. The committee has to come up with that sort of thrust. But they told me that they didn't have an answer to that because they didn't know yet quite what was going to be coming at us in terms of asks. So you have to bear with the fact that this is new on everybody. So we're kind of having to adjust as we go. I mean, it has a lot to do with how the applications that are finally ultimately submitted are written. And we're going to have to look at those in totality first, and then sort of start to see, are there clusters of ideas that are similar that should be managed or chosen in a certain way? Are there a lot of $15,000 asks for one-time things? We just don't know. I'm sorry, it's a pretty lukewarm answer to your question, but I don't have the straight facts on that yet.
What type of people are on this committee? I mean,
Sorry?
names most probably don't mean anything to me, but who is this committee?
So the Behavioral Health Advisory Committee has law enforcement, hospital, county. It's got, I'll show you the roster in a second, but it's pretty well covered, but not completely. Then we've got vendors that are over a wide ranging of programs because the BHAC was founded on the notion of administering the 1/10 of 1% funds, which are slightly different than the opioid funds. There will be a subcommittee of the bigger committee that will do the application reviews for the opioid funds. And at our meeting next Tuesday, we're going to have people offer to be on that subcommittee, but we need to make sure that there's no conflict of interest and it's not too many like people on the committee. It needs to be a good representation of the larger committee. They may choose that all of the committee members should be on the subcommittee. Denise?
I'm sorry, I
Just
thought
going to
this
keep
was-
laughing.
Yes, because I thought this meeting started at 4 and I can see that it's over.
It is over.
Yes, did someone ask the question about grantees are expected to use the client satisfaction questionnaire that will be developed by the vendor or for funded projects?
Nobody asked about it.
Okay, I don't quite understand what you mean there because the grantee would be me if I received a grant, and then a vendor would be a person that I'm giving the money to do a job for me. And then the client, and then they're developing a client satisfaction questionnaire, or are you referring to yourself as the vendor?
Let me put it this way, and I'll use NFP as an example.
Okay.
If NFP were to get these funds,
Uh-huh.
we would require, for data purposes, among other things, that a satisfaction survey be administered to recipients of the service that these funds pay for.
Oh, I see.
So that we
Okay.
know that there is notification and data on the impact of said funds for said purposes.
I get what you mean now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Gabby, you've been on here a long time. Do you have any more questions?
I don't. I think you've
Okay.
done an excellent job explaining things. I'm pretty familiar with the
You just
RFP process with
You
you
are.
guys. The application looked very similar to
Yeah.
the 1/10 application, and I do intend to apply for some money for some
Excellent.
things.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. Excellent.
yeah.
Great. I'm so glad to see you here. Brian, anyone else?
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
I had to go in and out, so I'll look for your notes later too, but I appreciate you.
It'll
being here.
be a link to the recording of this. I am a terrible note
That's fine.
so
That
don't
works.
rely on my notes.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And anybody from Salish BHASO, Ilea still here, but not Jolene. If there's any questions you have residual from this, please reach out to me via email. I'm usually in touch with Jolene one way or another. Jessica, I didn't even say hello to you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. And it sounds like the scoring rubric might be something you'd like after we get it determined, which I'd be happy to give you. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.